And I have to admit, I'm a bit confused. See, about 2 years ago, I landed in the United States the Sunday after President Trump was elected. And I was taking a course, and the lecturer starts by saying, "You have arrived in the United States in the most hysterical times." And I say to him with my broken English, "You mean historical times?" And he says, no, I meant hysterical times. And when we're discussing the topic, the rule of law, and notions of equality, courts, fair legal system arise, or immediate consequences are mentioned, I'm slightly puzzled. I'm slightly puzzled because, as far as I'm concerned, as a religious Jew, for me, the first book of rules and laws and regulations that was written is the Bible. That's some sort of framework as how we live and how we want to live that was set, the truth of the matter, by God. No human beings involved. He gave us orders and instructions. And whether we believe it or not, no one can deny that that was the first set of rules that was adopted afterwards by other religions and now by different countries. And from there you see a whole development of what the rule of law is. Yet, when you live in the Middle East with neighbors like we have, and the topic is being discussed in our capital, I'm slightly puzzled. I'm slightly puzzled because, you see, last week, Israel was attacked by no less than 500 missiles. And there are a few Israelis in this room, I can recognize some of them, who have got criticism over their government because the Israeli government responded to the attack, but only after they took cautions which they believe will comply with the international rule of law. So we know where the command was given to attack the state of Israel. We send a single fire, we call it knocking on the roof. We knock on the roof, we'll tell them, "Hey guys, we know you're in there, we're going to shoot you in 5 minutes. You've got 5 minutes to evacuate the building because we want to comply with the rule of law." And surprise, we count up till 5, we attack that building. No casualties, no consequence, definitely no immediate consequence. A rule of law, as far as I understand, is some sort of an agreement between parties who are willing to bind that agreement. Now, there were endless examples here brought on a national level or international level with implications on financials in the local government or even the whole entire world. But when the government of Israel signs or doesn't sign, agree or don't agree, I don't exactly know what happened there behind the scenes because it's top secret and the Prime Minister won't disclose exactly what happened. But all of a sudden there is a ceasefire. And we know about that ceasefire two things. Number one is Israel will do everything in its power to keep that agreement because we are people that obey the law. Yet we know that Hamas will just wait for their opportunity to breach that agreement because they use every ceasefire to prepare themselves for the second round. So as I said, I'm slightly puzzled because there's definitely no immediate consequence in the rule of law that I understand. And there's definitely not any of the issues of equality, courts, fair legal system that Sir Ivan has suggested. And if I take the sentence that Sir Ivan concluded his opening remarks, if I quote, halfly accurate, excuse me if I'm misquoting, but when the state is threatened, we need to try even more to keep the rule of law, that makes me puzzled in the reality that we live in the Middle East. Because we are definitely trying to keep in the book of law, we're definitely trying to keep and obey the rules and regulations. There's now going to be change of chief of command of the Israeli IDF, and there's criticism about how decision-making is being done in the IDF because the officers are so careful to work according to the book of law. They are being escorted by legal advisors, which is something completely new to when I was serving in the army, because when I was in the army, we had a mission and nobody discussed international law, yet today every officer has a legal advisor. Which makes me question and again puzzled as to what is the rule of law. Another notion that was brought to this podium is democracy. I think we all believe in democracy. We all understand that that's the way we want to govern ourselves. But yet, as far as I understand, democracy was set on two pillars, which is fairness and truth. Let's say we agree on what's fair and what's not fair. Can we agree today on what's true and what's not true without even bringing the notion of fake news to the podium? There's a challenge. You don't know what's true and what's not true. We've got one set of facts and at least two different interpretations. As a practicing lawyer, one day I came to my secretary completely frustrated and I said to her, half our clients are liars. She said to me, why? I said, because I just had to argue their case in court. I argued it was day. The other side argued it was night. Each side brought their expert opinion to prove their point, and poor judge sitting on the bench needs to decide who's telling the truth and who's lying. But it seems like the truth and false has expanded way out of the courtroom, and it's in every single aspect of day-to-day life. Yet, I was asked to speak in this conference. Yes, I did say I will speak about the rule of law. And the only reason I think Joel and Natasha invited me was because when they came to Efrat, I showed them in my eyes what it means to be the mayor of a city in Judea and Samaria that's being examined under a magnifying glass or maybe under a microscope, whether we are obeying the law and whether we're not obeying the law. And in my understanding, despite everything I've said up until now, we need to try and know what is allowed and what is not allowed, what is accepted and what is not accepted, and to try and base our arguments on the most wide common denominator of accepted rules and regulations. Why? Because that's the only way we can succeed. So despite all the criticism that Israeli residents might have today about the tactics that were taken last week in Gaza, we have no other option. Because if we want to win this battle, we have to make sure we obey the rule of law, even though everybody else around us is ignoring it. Because the first time we will ignore the single little tag that we will miss, we'll be condemned just about that. So there's a challenge to actually know what the rule of law is. Once we know that, we definitely need to obey it. Thank you.